Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Slimming Surgeon podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kandace Kichler. Today, I have a fabulous guest on my podcast, Dan Tighe. He's my good friend, but he's also an entrepreneur and an attorney. He has recovered hundreds of millions of dollars in insurance proceeds for clients following property damage losses after events like hurricanes here in Florida and in other states throughout the country. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about personal development. We're going to talk about branding. We're going to talk about all things success. And we're going to get really woo-woo with it. Do you know what I mean by woo-woo?
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Pleasure to be here.
All right. So Dan and I often exchange books because we are both into kind of just building your own brand, making the most out of your life, and really just jumping on that success train. So I feel like the first book that I bought at your recommendation was The Almanac. I don't even know how to say the guy's name.
Yeah, Naval's Almanac.
Yeah.
Epic book.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, it's like chapter after chapter of basic life hacks.
Yeah, and not to get too nitty gritty at the front end of the podcast here, but I keep books like, Naval's Almanac and little short clip books like that. I keep them in personal spaces where I go often so that I have a chance. It's not a whole book, but I can get like a little piece of insight, if I'm in the restroom or wherever,
Oh, yeah, so, exactly. Totally. Definitely in the restroom. Keep it there. No, but I highlight and fold over pages. Folding over is like, okay, if you're actually in the process of reading it, then you forget which fold you're at. But no, I do the same thing because oftentimes there's these little hacks and you forget. But if you go back and remember, you're like, oh, yeah, great tip. This is what I should be doing. Center yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I joke with Daria, my fiance, who's been a wonderful guest on the podcast.
Yeah, and she's coming back.
Good. Yeah, she's a podcasting pro, and you guys are so impressive with this. I really love it. But she jokes, my books are like a war zone. Every third page is dog-eared because I want to come back to it, and I have this really not great system where it speaks to myself. I'll fold the page a little more if it's further down what I want to see, or I'll fold it a little smaller if it's like I'm communicating with my future self. Like, this was what you wanted to see.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you're hardly, in my estimation, you're hardly reading if you're not reading with a pen.
Yes.
How are you just going to remember this? Now, listen, if you're reading Twilight books or your entertainment books, like, cool, great.
Right.
But if you're trying to learn the lessons that are being shared and that are available to you, the greatest lessons in the history of human achievement are all there for us, just sitting there. Mm-hmm. And people have put their time and their lives and their life's work and energy into this. And I can just, who the heck am I? I can order it on Amazon, have it the next day. I can have a conversation with Ben Franklin.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I really love it. And this is something that I really didn't pick up until like a couple years ago. Life happened. We were both in school for a really freaking long time. And, you come out on the other side, you're a little burnt out on reading. And I don't know, I found really a lot of enjoyment with it lately. Of course, I took another little break having a kid, but aside from that, you got to do it. You got to open your mind, because once you're no longer in school, I feel like you don't learn unless you put that effort in. Yeah,
you're absolutely correct. And what happens is, especially in advanced degrees or medicine, you have to read, and you have to read vocational texts, and you have to read, in my instance, case law and, legal analysis. And that's dry and boring, but it's important and it's to the point. And for you, I don't assume to know, what a doctor reads, but I'm sure there's very
weird shit.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not like bedside table reading. So the difference is, when you're in those programs or when you're reading as part of your job or your job training, you're reading what you have to read. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, you can choose what to read. I've been fortunate. I grew up, I'm kind of like an old soul. My father, who you've met, is an older guy. He's a very wise guy. And he was always huge on education. And unfortunately, his life circumstances when he was younger didn't allow him to have secondary education. Mm-hmm. So he's been a big proponent of that for his children and certainly me.
Did he not go to college?
So my dad is like a first-rate hustler. So he was in the military and did correspondence courses to like get credits. And then he became a police officer.
Oh my God.
And then like a couple years later, like finished off with more correspondence from Northwest Missouri State, which was one of the few schools that offered correspondence courses at that time. And he just like got it done you know, any way he could. I think growing up, his parents were in the bar, were Irish immigrants, and his parents were they ran a bar in Ireland, and then his uncle ran a bar in New York City, and he just wanted kind of, I think, and I can't purport to know, but I believe that, you know, he would admire people who had, you know, lawyers, doctors, like a lot of first generation or second generation immigrants do. And he just kind of, you know, always wanted that for his kids and always aspired to that. And then he just kind of made it happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, his life story came out differently. He's been incredibly successful in the insurance space, mainly because he's, you know, he's a smart go-getter and he's a likable guy. Yeah. But he always just pushed that education on us. And, you know, growing up, he'd be reading constantly, and, you know, I think you aspire to, you know, what you see your parents doing.
Right. Well, we have that in common. I mean, neither of my parents went to college. So I was the first person, you know, that went to college. I had cousins who went before me that were several years older, but the same thing, my parents, mostly my mom, really, really pushed me. You know, there were days where I was like, I'm quitting. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, you know, from high school when you're in the honor or the AP program or whatever. And then in college when you're in the honors program, I was always like, I don't really know that I want to do this. Like, this is a lot of work. I'd rather just like hang out with my friends. And she was like, no, you're doing it. Like, you've got it. Just do it. Keep going. And, you know, I'm really thankful for that. But at the same time, I also did have that drive because I saw what you can be successful with if you do have that education and that background versus if you don't, you know?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. And, you know, I was not an overachiever in high school. I was a basketball jock.
With my husband.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we came to know each other. And I kind of got serious as I carried on my educational journey and realized that, you know, where do you want to go? And these are the tools to get you there. And, you know, at some point in the maturation process, I was like, hey, listen,
at some point we grow up.
It's sad. It's so sad.
I know, from pool parties to podcasts.
Yes,
okay. So speaking of that, the tools, like, what do you know, there's days where I feel like no matter what your background or what gifts you're given, at the same time, the people that you're around or the people that you're surrounded with, maybe the mentors or even just like the same level colleagues that you have, they have a huge impact on your success and how you're going to come out. Like, what do you think about that?
Absolutely true. And I think who you surround yourself with is vitally important to who you are and who you're going to become. The old saying, of course, is show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. Or also, you know, it's like you're the combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And absolutely, that's going to rub off. And I've had some different twists and turns, like everyone, career-wise, personal-wise. And I credit specific things of why I was successful doing this to something I learned from, you know, a roofer that I met in this place or something, you know, just something, you know, connects a certain way. And resonates and you like it or it's successful and you see it and then you adopt it as your own. And I'm sure probably in the medical field too, you know, as a successful woman in medicine too, you know, unfortunately that hasn't always been the career path for women. So I'm sure, have you had any instances where you've said like, hey, that's a badass bee?
Oh yeah. That's the whole reason. Yeah. That's the whole reason why I'm a surgeon, you know, because growing up I wanted initially, I was going to be a doctor. Okay. And then the doctor that my mom worked for, a family practice doctor, encouraged me to be a dermatologist because he's like, it's great hours. You get to do procedures. It's fun. You know, there's the cosmetic aspect. I get to medical school. I made good grades. Like I had mostly A's and maybe like 1 B. And one of the advisors there gave me the worst advice of my life. She was like, oh, you cannot be a dermatologist. You're not smart enough. Like you need to be the top of the class, the number 1 student. That's it, period. That's the only people who get into dermatology. Now I know that that's not actually the case, but I was like, okay, fine, let's pivot. I did research between my first and second year of medical school and worked with a surgeon and a female surgeon at that, which in that, even then, which wasn't that long ago, you know, we're talking like 10, 15 years ago. I'm not aging myself because I'm still 22, but, you know, if even back then, it was super rare to find a female surgeon. And she just had it all. Like this woman, Donna Lynn Dias is her name. She's in Mobile, Alabama. She's an endocrine surgeon, breast surgeon. She also takes trauma call. And I saw this woman who was married, who had many kids, and who was still working and loving her life. And I was like, okay, we can do this. On top of that, you know, being in the operating room, you see all the cool stuff. And if you want to do it, you do it. And
Sure.
if you have the personality, you do it. But, you know, I just think, to your point, those connections and like seeing other people who inspire you or give you aspirations are so important. And you have to jump on that, even if you're not ready. And I think that's something else I want to talk about is, you know, you've done different things in your career. Like you're not just the everyday lawyer who goes to the courtroom, but you've like started your own business. You've started your own practice, you know, like walk us through that and what made you decide to do that.
Yeah, I wish I had kind of a better story for it. But in law school, I kind of realized that I love the legal training and I love the logic. And, you know, I appreciate the study of law, but I was not like a gunner is what you call the guy who wants to get
we hate
A's.
gunners.
No, that's not us, man.
Screw them.
Yeah. That was very much not who I was destined to be. And although I very much admire people who are obsessed with the law and the little details and the little, you know, oh my God, it's an ambiguity. Oh, this is, you know, this case law. Let's research for another 10 hours.
That sounds nauseating.
Hey, that's terrific if you like that sort of thing. But for me, I kind of wanted to run it more like a business. And again, just the people that you're around. You know, I'm inspired by my family, fortunately come from a very successful family, self-made people. I have brothers, sisters who are lawyers, insurance agents, insurance brokers, other, you know, professionals. And I always wanted to be successful. So, you know, the law degree was a chance to improve my skill set and my thinking for me more so than a vocational, like I'm going to be a lawyer. I didn't even think I was going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And
when did you decide? Like in undergrad sometime? Or did you go to undergrad thinking you were going to be a lawyer?
No, so I never did that. So I did my undergrad and my MBA, and I did an advanced program. I was the first one. I'm a proud graduate of Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida. And they had, for the first year, offered a combination 3-2 program. So 3 years undergraduate, coupled with 2 years at the business school, and you'd get both degrees, which normally you'd complete 4 years undergrad, 2 years business school.
Right.
So the overlapping year, you'd take business school classes, and the credits would apply. And me, just like who I am, I don't take no for an answer. Like if I see something, I'm going to try to figure it out. I'm going to work towards that goal. And sometimes it doesn't work out. But oftentimes, if you just keep pushing and you're maybe a little creative and well-intentioned, like the universe kind of aligns and it works out. Totally. So I wanted to go to Rollins undergraduate as a non-economics major, but to do the 3-2, you had to do an economics major to do that program I wanted to. And, you know, my dad laughs at me now, my mom laughs at me now about how we went about that. I was like, I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to do it this way. And they were kind of like, I remember, and of course, these are like school administration people who are not, you know, I'm trying to be as kind as possible. They're tremendous people, but they're not used to maybe more like a pushy kind of businessy guy.
They're probably, who's
and
this kid?
And I was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to do this English major. And they're like, well, no, you have to do this. I'm like, well, credit's a credit. We're supposed to be liberal arts. Like, aren't we really all supposed to be learning everything? And like, of course, I had 20 arguments already made up about why I'm just going to do what I want, and you're going to be okay with it. And long story short, went well. I did an internship on the New York Mercantile Exchange before it was bought by the Intercontinental ICE Exchange, and then it moved online. Long story short, we were trading oil futures. That was like my summer internship. And got some really cool and weird experience doing that. I mean, who in the world gets to do that? And then I mentioned they were bought by the ICE Exchange, and it all went online. So I was in the physical pit doing the hand signals, helping support the guys who were traders. I was like a little shit kid. And to all these guys. And just the intern. And, lo and behold, 2 years later, that exchange is gone. It's all online. So like that was not an option for me. And I have an older brother who is a successful plaintiff's attorney here in Florida. And, you know, I was looking for the next thing. And I had fortunate at this point, I started taking my studies seriously, and I test well. And, so I had good grades. I was, top whatever, a couple of guys in the class. So I got the little pin from the Honor Society, all that
Wait,
stuff.
so you
stuff
were
that
a
you
gunner.
are good at. I'm not. I'm traditionally not. I'm just a good test taker.
Okay.
I'm really not.
Okay, sure. Okay.
No, for real. Like I'm
No,
not.
I'm kidding.
I joke, like I had some friends in law school that like, but for them being like, hey, Dan, did you even sign up for classes yet?
Right,
like,
right.
I would not have passed. So, but when it comes time to perform, like I'm on. So, which is a good quality for that you want in a lawyer, right? Is we're going to walk into negotiation, we're going to do a deal. Obviously a lot of that work's done preliminary, but I can hire any number of people to do the preliminary stuff.
Yeah.
When it comes time to act, it comes time to do and perform or to operate, you know, and I don't even know the PA, I don't even know what the terminology is, but someone else preps the person.
Yeah.
And then you come in and you do the surgery, right?
Exactly.
So I guess digressing back to the point, was, coming out of that master's in business administration program, didn't know what I wanted to do. It was kind of around the Great Recession time there too. My brother was making really good money as a lawyer, enjoying what he did. He went out on his own, very entrepreneurial. And my dad was like, listen, man, and he's like, you got this great opportunity. Like I said, he admires people with this higher education, which is terrific. Yeah. He said, you got an opportunity here, where you can spend 3 more years, get that law degree. And I remember him telling me, he's like, for my reading, because he didn't know firsthand, but from Ben Franklin on, everyone says law is the best training you can have for your mind. Yeah. And I believe that even for people, for law school, the better law schools, I shouldn't say better, the higher rated law schools, they're generally not vocational training. Okay. They're teaching you how to use logic and how to craft arguments and how to understand and how to process information. They don't teach you how to file a document. Sure. You have to learn that on your own. And that's not very difficult if you're smart and accomplished. But, that brain training was awesome. And, now I see things in a different way. Like there's no going back.
And so, I mean, that kind of just speaks to the difference in like drive and formal education. Like for both you and I, obviously we needed that formal education, but to get beyond that or to take the next step, you've got to have that inherent drive. Like you've got to want to branch out and do something different.
Yeah, you definitely do. And, I give you all the credit in the world. I don't know how you manage everything you got going on, the family and the medical practice and just the business of life. And, selling the home and moving, we were just talking about.
By the way, I'm selling my house. It's sold, actually. Okay.
So, I look and I run a pretty straightforward lifestyle. I'm engaged and we're looking forward to starting a family soon. But, it's really right now I have like one thing going on and it's work. And then my home life is very straightforward. So I give you all the credit.
It won't be for long. Once you start a family, then you have no choice but to be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's like everything will find its place in time. It'll just be a little more chaotic than it was before.
A little more.
And you adjust.
Yeah,
so in your business now, you're like, I see you out in the field. Like are you actually going on roofs sometimes?
Yeah. So, life has a funny way of, kind of finding that path. Like we talked about is you follow, the people that inspire you, you think about what you want to do and you just figure out how to get there. And, when I started in the business of property damage restoration law would be like an easy way for people to understand what we do. Basically, a hurricane comes through or a storm comes through, a tree falls through your roof or your business, and you have insurance that's designed to pay you promptly and fairly so you can rebuild and go on with your life. Not surprisingly to anyone, who's dealt with insurance claims, the insurance company has an adverse incentive to you in that they don't want to give you that money promptly or completely or, fairly.
Right.
So that's where we step in and we come in and we examine what was damaged. We build a comprehensive scope and estimate, and then we seek that back from the insurance company. And when I started, like everyone, I started kind of on the residential side with more straightforward, easier, simple losses. Yeah. And we just built a machine to handle that. And I found some good partners, and that's a breach of contract. Like, this is the opposite of the novel arguments in front of the Supreme Court. You're repeating the same process over and over again, and the evidence changes and certain things change, but relatively simple on the scale, right? So that's where I started. And then as I progressed and as I met and encountered some people in the field, I'm pretty young for a lawyer who's running his own firm.
Yeah.
And I deal with the owners of companies. Like I'm not generally dealing, I'll deal with project managers or sales guys or whatever, but generally that's the level who I'm dealing with and cooperating with are people who've been doing on the insurance adjusting side 40, 50 years out there, or the guy who owns a company who built the Atlanta airport. You know, like these are and they look at me and they're like, who's this young guy? Like, what's he doing here? And I think one of the strengths that I had was I just never thought I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So now going back to your question is I'm in the field because I want to get my hands on, if I'm doing $1 million loss or an $18 million loss, I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
Like I want to be there. I want to get my hands on it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hire experts to, tell me everything I need to know. I'm not the world's greatest commercial roofer. I'm not supposed to be.
Right.
That's not my role.
Exactly.
So I'm going to hire the right experts, but to have the context to understand what they're saying, to be able to advocate for my clients the best possible, I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up on the adjuster meeting. I want them to know that I'm in tune.
Yeah.
I didn't just file a lawsuit and say, hey, the wheels of justice, that'll turn. Someday we'll get it.
Yeah.
I'm saying, hey, let's go. Let's work this out. Come to the table. And it's kind of a fresh approach in terms of lawyers.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure no lawyer does that.
It's unusual. But that I put that all together from experience handling large losses with contractors who were doing that process or with adjusters who were doing that process. I said, hey, let me tag along.
Right.
Or I'd be in town. We'd be meeting for lunch afterwards. They're going out to the loss. I'm like, yeah, let me check it out.
Yeah.
Or, we're working on it together and I see what they do.
Right.
And I've built this, kind of a hybrid model and it's been very successful. We're seeing these big claims resolve way sooner than law firms that are the guys I went to law school with who are, like, oh, we got to file this and we got to wait 60 days.
See what happens with it.
And exactly. So it's taking a proactive approach and just kind of saying, hey, screw it. I'm doing it my way. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised, but that is definitely one of the reasons why you're successful, because you're willing to put in that extra effort, to go the extra mile, to be there for the people and to show your interest. I feel like people are losing that, with the social media, with just like the world that we live in now. Like you were here 10 minutes early, like other people just don't even show up, or they show up late, or they don't care, or, what is on their plate and their like 5-minute radius is all that's important to them. And that human touch is super important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you want to get somewhere, first of all, you need to know where you want to go. And then you need to make the right decisions to get there. And if your plate's flowing over with menial tasks, or if you don't have a system to sort what's important from what's not important, then the not important is going to take up all your time and you're not going to be able to get where you want to go in the time frame you want to get there.
Right.
And if you've got big goals, which, clearly you do,
we all do.
We all do, exactly.
Yeah, the people listening do too.
The people listening do. But if you're ambitious and you want to create something, you have to start with the end in mind, and you have to. You say surround yourself with people. I also listen to a ton of podcasts. So when you invited me here, I was like, hey, great, let me try it out, because I'm a beneficiary of all the hard work that Jocko Willink's put in, Rob Dyrdek's put in, Tim Ferriss.
I love Ed Milet. He's my favorite for podcast. You got to listen if you haven't.
He's good. Yeah, he's a lot of high energy.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Oh yeah, he was like yelling at me today. That's fine.
Sometimes you just need a little kick in the butt, and I can appreciate that. Let me ask you though, because I sometimes feel like we talk about those people that we do rely on. Do you have those people in your life who are still pushing you, maybe the surgeon that you first encountered who inspired you, or do you have other people when you're kind of like, this isn't going exactly how I thought it? Well, we all do, right?
Yeah.
I do a lot of that. Is the podcasts, as silly as it sounds, they're that people for me. And a lot of times where I'm like, what would Jocko do? He'd say, good.
Yeah.
Oh, you had a setback? Good.
Right.
Back better. So do you have any people like that in your life?
Yeah, definitely. Number one is myself, because if I feel like I'm not, working up to my own standards, then what am I doing? And some of the best advice that I have heard from a podcast is, think about your kids. Like I have this now in my life, you will eventually too, but they're super important to you. Like once you have kids, it's like, there's really nobody else you care that much about. Maybe your husband sometimes. No, just kidding, Nick. But one of the best pieces of advice I heard lately was like, one of the best things that you can do for your children is live to your fullest potential. And if you are not taking those opportunities, not being the best version of yourself, not advancing your career, not reaching your goals, they're going to see that. And you want them to be proud of you just as much as you want to be proud of you. So, myself, I think is a big person that I answer to, and I have the goals in my mind, and I do bounce those off of people. Like my most recent partner, big influence on my life because he's where I may want to be, maybe not exactly because we're different, but the same. And I see like what he's done, what he's accomplished, what he's provided for his family. And, I have similar goals. But it's really just getting in that mindset. And once you're there, I feel like it's hard to leave. Once you're in this going and winning and advancing, you're going to have setbacks. Like that's normal. You have to, like everyone does. The roads are never perfectly paved. But once you accomplish so much, if you just stop, it's like, okay, what do we do now? Like, are we just really going to chill at 37?
Is that who I am?
Yeah.
I agree. And you hold that standard, you set the standard and you hold that standard.
Right.
And when you first said that you inspire you, I was thinking about you in the mirror, just Candace, get out there.
Yes. It's like that. Is it Snoop Dogg? It's like, I want to thank me for being me. Like literally it's true sometimes because you put in the effort, but you want to get to that level and you want to just keep rising. At least I do.
Yeah, well, it's good that you can recognize how far you've come and that you still have a way to go, but have that perspective where you're like, wow, like this is pretty cool. Like, look back at like what I've done and, it's not always about the next. It's not always about more. It's about appreciation, not like, boastful,
right?
In terms of
being
appreciation,
grateful.
Like, wow, like this is cool. Like, look at the way I'm providing for, for me, my family and, not my kids, but I take care of, a bunch of other people in my family in a bunch of different ways.
Right.
And, the ability to do that, like that's like a bucket list thing, some of the things, not getting into specifics, but like I've checked some boxes where I'm like, wow, like, who else can do that? Like that was really cool.
Yeah.
And, setting those goals, holding that standard for yourself. Mm-hmm. And, that's my, one of the things that everyone's battle is, right? Getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
At that time, that alarm clock rings and oh my God, that pillow's so great. And it's dark and it's cold and oh my God, it's just the best. And then you just got to ask yourself, it's like Stoic philosophy. This goes back, hundreds and hundreds of years. Is this what your life was made for? Mm-hmm. Is to like lay here for 5 more minutes and be comfortable? Is that how you're spending your valuable, precious life, your life? You're going to be that guy? Or are you going to get after it today? And like, that's, I kick myself in the ass sometimes too, the same way. So
I know I should have done that workout this morning. No, but we'll get it in this week.
You got the evening too.
So do you have a daily routine or do you have a morning routine? Are you an early riser? Do you get more stuff done in the evenings? Like what's your flow?
Yeah. And, everyone's kind of different. The more systems and processes you can set up, you've got kind of guardrails, and I try to do a lot of that. I'm not perfect, like everybody. Like
no one's perfect, right?
You set it up and you start out well-intentioned and it's looking great. Mm-hmm. And then, you have that weekend vacation and you set the alarm a little later or you're not feeling great, so you don't do your morning workout or whatever. And then, you just got to recenter yourself. And the reason I bring that up is I just did that. Like I'm back to inbox zero. Okay. I'm back to like full delegate and elevate style now. Yeah. And I was I started the year off that way. We had some big obstacles this year that took my attention away and working on different stuff and, big disputes with old partners and this and that. Yeah. And we had, unfortunate circumstances in our human resources, all sorts of different stuff going on.
Sure.
And like,
these are things that happen. This is what I'm talking about. There's going to be bumps in the road that shouldn't deter you from the path.
And the obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
That's more Stoic philosophy as well, is like, that's not an obstacle. That is the way you have to go. Like that is part of your journey. Mm-hmm. And that big rock in the road is literally how getting over that rock is your path.
Yeah.
It's not like that's in your way. That is your path.
Right.
And that's good perspective. But, back to, the guardrails that I try to set up for myself, I using a term from Jocko Willink, one of my favorite inspirational guys, but he says up before the enemy. So if I wake up before the other, who's the enemy? It doesn't matter who the enemy is.
Right.
The enemy is boredom and laziness and whatever. The enemy is whatever's out there, right? It's your team, versus you don't need to have the enemy defined. But if you're up early and you get your mindset right and you've got your nutrition right, and I have, a shake and electrolytes and all the different stuff, a little coffee, a little collagen, little protein powder, get to the gym.
Yeah.
I play a lot of tennis now too, which is great because it's a workout, but it flies by, which is something that I've always been a workout grinder where it's like, hey, here's what you do. Here's the list. Like, go and do it. Like, no one cares. Just go do your workout. And no one cares. It's me talking to myself, right? It's like, just go do it.
Right.
But if I win the morning, I win the day. Again, another, one of these sayings.
Listen, we can repeat all the sayings we want as long as we really believe them.
as long as you live them, right?
Yes.
And you're not just yelling them out into the ether.
Right.
But, generally speaking, that's what I want to do is set the tone for the day and then, get your work organized and then work on it. Don't just walk in and just start working on whatever.
Random shit. Yeah.
And then other people are making your to-do list, and rather than you prioritizing smartly, what is the most important task? Do that, then move down the list. It's just like craziness.
Yeah. So. I know. I love, I'll be the first to admit I'm not on my game like I was before I had my most recent son, but my routine before Cam got here was I was getting up at 5. Like I read the 5 a.m. Club. You can, I think it's Robin Sharma, but great book. And it's a little woo woo because it's got like characters and he tries to make it fiction, but then it's not, it's like whatever. But just some of the things it spelled out that you should do with your day, I really connected with. And that was getting up at 5 a.m., getting up before everyone else, having that time to yourself, not looking on your phone, getting a workout in, doing some meditation or reading and planning out your day. And it makes a huge difference in how much you can accomplish in one single day. And imagine all of those days lined up in a row or compounded over time versus someone who does nothing or doesn't do any of these things.
Or does the average amount.
Right.
And you're working working on whatever it is, but you're moving forward 3 hours a day more than that person.
Yeah.
Or they're staying up late and watching TV. You can't do that if you're waking up at 5 a.m.
No.
I'll tell you a funny aside about the 5 a.m. club is I have another law firm and a lawyer that is the principal of the law firm I do a lot of work with. And he read the 5 a.m. club and he's lost. He credits me. I don't think it's fair.
Yeah.
Credits me a lot with this inspiration because we just started working together and, we're rocking and rolling at work. And he's like, dude, like you got a great lifestyle and you're fit. And so he credits me with the inspiration. I take no credit. I'm like, you did everything. But he read 5 a.m. club and he's down like 60 pounds, hasn't had a drink in, 160 days.
Yeah.
He's training for sprint triathlons, all this different stuff. And he's like, Dan, you got to read 5 a.m. club. And I told him, I said, I'm not reading it.
Yeah.
And he was shocked. He's like, why wouldn't you read it? I said, well, I'm the type of guy, I'm going to read it. And then I'm going to hold myself to that freaking standard.
Well, yeah.
Because I read it and I'm like, that makes sense. Now I got to do it.
Yeah.
I can't just read it and pretend I didn't. I kind of have to do it now.
No, it is a lot.
I haven't read it yet.
It is a lot. I mean, you're going to have to read it one day.
Yes.
When you're ready.
Yes.
But it's, the general basis, the 5 a.m. routine, I think you could handle. But it does have a lot more. Like it goes into even more detail of what you should do. And that can get a little bit daunting. But listen, if you can just pick up a couple of the tips, and I recommend this to like the people listening, like if you just take a couple of those tips, like get up an hour before anyone else in your house.
Or 15 minutes or whatever
Exactly.
it is for you.
Like whatever you can make fit into your schedule and have time for yourself, have that time for exercise, have that time to plan your day or figure out what your priorities are for the day. Like I love making a list. Like me and list, we get along. Same. I make lists and I put little boxes, and nothing gives me more pleasure than checking off a box. Like I did it today. I was like, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I still got to do my podcast notes for my upcoming launch. That's tomorrow, but I got a lot of other things accomplished. So, I think that's really important.
What does that list look? Is it a physical list? Because I'm imagining like paper.
list.
I'm imagining white paper, pink checkmark pen?
I need to get some pink pens. Right now I'm rocking with blue, which is
it's very classic.
Fine. It's fine. But I'm a pen and paper kind of person. Like I really, we have our phones and we have calendars, but somewhere along the line, or along the way in my training, I had like 3 different emails. So then I had 3 different calendars and none of them would sync. And I was like, this is crap, because like I would miss something, sure. I'd be like, oh shoot, I'm supposed to have this call with this person. It was on this calendar. So I literally have a paper calendar. Like it's in my purse right now. I open it up, I see the week, and I review it every Sunday, which I think is also a really good habit, because I look forward, and if I need to make adjustments, I make adjustments. Like today I get to work. I've got surgery that was tomorrow, but the patient now has COVID. She's the next week. I adjusted in my calendar. Now I know I've got time, when I drop off my car at the dealer tomorrow to, I don't know, have coffee or something, and then go to work versus go into surgery. So, I'm a pen and paper kind of person. And yeah, I'll put those lists somewhere on my calendar, or I'll have a whole separate sheet where each day, I'm knocking things off.
It's great. And I've tried everything out there. I've gone paper. I've gone the remarkable, like, paper tablet thing.
Oh yeah, that's a lot. You could lose them.
Well, there's a lot of different. Well, things.
You can lose paper too.
But paper's tried and true. And the one thing that I like that you do is, planning the week is perspective, right? You're zooming out. You're not trapped in the schedule of every day. You're saying, what do I want to accomplish this week? And it may, in your lifestyle, it may be, effectively doing the surgeries and whatever you need to do. That is, it may not be so much long-term planning at the weekly basis, but maybe for you, it's every 90 days you want to get something big accomplished, or every 6 months you have to, improve some skill set or something. I don't begin to know what you do, but but that perspective is important.
100%. Thinking of like perspective, I heard someone talk about, maybe not quite being ready for something, but jumping into it. Like you think that, or you have this perception that you aren't skilled enough, or you aren't qualified enough, or there's so many people with more experience than you who's doing something that maybe you want to do. I'm the kind of person, obviously, that just kind of jumps in, against my better judgment or against maybe what other people might say. I think action is way more valuable than inaction. Like, what are you like? Do you agree?
So I agree with what you're saying, but I am not that way.
Really?
Which may surprise some people, because I do a lot of different stuff. I've, bought and sold private companies. I've trained sales organizations in these different kind of things completely unrelated to what people see me as a lawyer. Yeah. And it's not that I'm willing to take the risk, but I'm going to learn everything I can about it for like however long it takes for me to be comfortable. And then you're going to do it. And I know I'm wrong. Like, you don't know what's going on until you do it. Right. Right. But I just know that I'm as prepared as possible to do that. And especially, in what we do, especially in like legal work, like there's certain mistakes. Like
that
surgery,
exact same, right? We don't do novel surgery like we do tried and true surgery. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But smartly planning it out, and but absolutely at some point, it's
some point
you just gotta go.
Yeah,
it's like, do you really want it?
Right.
And if you do, then you got to say, hey, let's go. But also too, we all have this. We all think that other person knows so much more than us.
Yes.
Or that other person, has so much more experience. It's like, that person was you 10 years, or was worse than you 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Right.
Like, why not you? And I think that's one of the things, going back to what we were talking about earlier, is being around some people who were, for me personally, who were working on, $5, $10, $20 million insurance claims. And I'm like, yeah, they just have their paralegal kind of moving it around. They're not really doing anything. Like, I could do this better.
Yeah, right.
And not, and then doing all the research and then digging in and saying, what am I missing? Yeah. Like, that's what I think. But like, am I forgetting something? Am I not seeing something?
Right.
Doing that research to the point that I'm comfortable, and then saying, you know what? hey, the world's a blank slate. Your life's a blank slate. Right? You can do whatever you want within reason.
Right.
You can choose to spend your time however you want.
Yeah.
You can go to the gym, you can go eat a donut, or you could, do anything in between. And in the end, does it matter? Does it not? I don't know.
Right.
But what do you want to do?
Right.
And then if you want to do certain things, you want to accomplish certain things, you want to have certain things, you want to have certain lifestyle, you got to earn it. And how do we get there? And it's time to go. Blank slate, figure it out.
Right.
Just sketch out what you think and make some assumptions and figure out you're wrong, but then fix it.
Right. And but you do have to make progress. You can't be, which obviously you're not because you are where you are today and you're here, but you can't research to the point where you're stalled, where you have that paralysis, where you don't make the progress and you don't take the opportunity and you don't take that risk. There's a fine line. It's super hard. Super hard to know when. It
is. And I think obviously it depends on the opportunity, depends on the person.
Yeah.
And one of the great things that, a byproduct of the work I did was we, made a significant amount of money early in my life. So I have the freedom now to choose what I want to do and what I want to approach and what risks I'm willing to take on.
Yeah.
If you're, a lawyer who works at a law firm and you get a salary and you've got the kids at home and you've got a mortgage payment and you've got car payments and you got student loans and you got this and you got all that stuff, you can't take, or you'd be foolish to take a big risk.
Right.
I can take a risk.
Yeah.
And so, I still want to take smart risks.
Yeah, of course.
But, that was always one of my goals was to put myself in a position where I could do what I want to do, not what I have to do.
Exactly.
And I was willing to work insane hours. I was living between, I had like a little triangle going between Orlando, Naples, and Palm Beach area.
Yeah.
Each one was 3 hours away. And I'd make that drive 2 legs a day. Sometimes
my gosh.
I'd meet with a client in Orlando, then go to dinner with other clients in Naples. And then I'd want to be home. So I drive home.
Yeah.
And I lived on the road and I gave everything I had to this business. And when I wasn't working and when I wasn't talking to people, I was learning and I was reading books, about what I'm doing. And I was looking online. I'm in Facebook forums talking to guys in Texas who've been doing it for 30 years and it's different, but it's similar. And what have they learned? And then a guy who does fire losses in California and then a personal injury attorney in Colorado who set his practice up this way. And then I learn all those little tidbits and just, the back of your mind's kind of going and then things connect in weird ways. And then it takes me back to lessons that I learned on the floor of the New York Mercantile Exchange.
Yeah.
And, oh, wow, this is why they did that here. What if that applies here? And just kind of putting that all together and then having the chance to seize that opportunity.
And I think, what you just talked about, like talking to so many different people and learning something from each person, I think is really important. Like listening is key. Taking that in, you may come into contact with someone, interact with somebody, and you may think that this interaction is just frivolous and it means nothing and you're going to go about your day, but there's probably something that you can learn from almost every single person that you meet every single day.
Yeah.
Even at the grocery store.
Oh, 100%. And keeping that curiosity and that beginner's mind. Like one of my favorite things, like we walked into this beautiful podcast studio and I'm like analyzing how the business runs.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, here's your fixed cost. Here's this, here's your, variable cost. Here's revenue probably. And, I'm looking at that and, and then talking to you about the medicine business, right? And surgery and how does that work? Do you have, you outsource the surgical center and then, is it all your in-house team? Is it not? And then when I look at that may be something down the line that connects to something very strange that I haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah.
Those two things plug together.
Right.
And that gives me the understanding of something else. And on top of that, it's fun and I take an interest in it. You know, like if it wasn't, would I do it as much? Probably not, right?
Right.
You don't have to choose the path of most resistance, right? You want to choose the path of least resistance or the resistance that you're willing to deal with.
Exactly. Okay. So I do want to ask you, do you ever get imposter syndrome? Like in what you do, interacting with all of these. So it's being who you are, but not feeling that you're worthy or not feeling that you live up to this title or this status. Maybe you're meeting with some of these, other lawyers or attorneys who do the $30 million deals and you think, oh, maybe I'm not on the same level as them. Like, do you ever get that sensation?
I don't anymore. And I'm just like a savage in that regard. Like, I don't care. Like I said, I'm going to do my research.
No, but that's
and then
good.
I'm going to come at it and say, there's no reason anyone is better than me at this or should be better than me at this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to break down a complex situation into simpler, bite-sized things, and I'm going to solve for each of those, and I'm going to put it back together, and it'll be as good or better as that other guy because he didn't outwork me and he's not as smart as me. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
But I certainly understand the terminology, and I'm not saying that like I've always rolled in the most confident guy in the world.
Right.
I'm very confident in my skill set now.
Yeah.
Certainly, coming up when I first started, I was doing personal injury law and trying to kind of figure it out. And then I jumped into this property damage through a friend who had some problems. He was a roofer, and I didn't know anything about roofing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just a lawyer. I don't know roofing.
Right.
And he sent me, one of his clients was having an issue. I said, yeah, I'll talk to him. And I just got on the phone. I had my roofer buddy in one ear, the adjuster in the other. And, they'd say something like, Mike, what do I say? And he'd tell me, and I'd kind of work it back and forth. And I worked that deal out. And then the next day I was like, Mike, that was great. And the check's in the mail. I'm getting paid. Homeowner's getting what they need. And the roofer's going to build their roof. And I said, how many guys you work with? He said, 40 or so. I said, great. Let's have happy hour on Friday. I want to meet them all. Let's see how I can help their clients in the same way who are being mistreated by those insurance companies as well. And I always just, just that bias towards action that we talked about, was at that point, was I confident?
No.
Not in specifically what I was doing.
Right.
But I had a belief in myself that I would figure it out. And that's only gotten stronger as I've seen, kind of the opposite of imposter syndrome is when I guess maybe I've had it enough where I thought, oh, wow, that's XYZ law firm. They're big and bad.
Yeah.
And then I meet the guys.
And you're like, really?
They're like dorks. Yeah. Who like, they have like a shiny office, but they don't know any better what they're doing. And they have a paper filing system and they don't have processes for these common tasks. I'm like, I can eat these guys lunch.
Yeah.
And then I saw that enough that I'm like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this.
Yeah.
I think that sort of addresses it, but, kind of working through that. Maybe I've kind of worked beyond that, but certainly, I enjoy undertaking new tasks and challenges and things that I don't know. I think I enjoy it now because I maybe don't have the imposter syndrome, the fear anymore. It's just the curiosity. How can I figure this out? And then the confidence that I will figure it out. Or maybe it's not right for me.
Yeah, exactly. I think, the confidence that you have, I feel like this is just a random thought, but I feel like it's so important when you have kids, and I feel like I'm trying to do this so much, that you really instill self-confidence in your kids. Like I see, and I was fortunate that I had that, like my parents were like, you're great, you're awesome, keep at it. Obviously there was direction. And if there was something I was bad at, we didn't keep doing that. Like I'm not a softball player, but, I think really giving your kids that gift is so important because there's nothing worse than seeing someone who has all this potential and doesn't believe in themselves and just they sit on the sidelines or they don't take those risks or they don't advance themselves just because they don't believe in themselves. So
yeah, it's like not even playing the game.
Yeah.
And it's a sad thing. And I see it in the legal profession a lot just because it's something if you have a law license, you can make enough money to support your family and you can slog to work and move paper for some law firm.
Yeah.
And like, I see see people who are, not fit, not keeping themselves fit, whatever that means for them.
Yeah.
They don't have a physical practice. They don't have great emotional or interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
They're probably not happy at home.
Yeah.
And they slug to work and they're like, slugging around all day.
Right.
And
no one wants to be a slug.
Yeah. And I looked at it and I'm like, life can be really fun.
Yeah.
Like if you approach it and you say, this is the game that I'm playing and I have autonomy over my actions. If you don't have autonomy, I could see how it would be pretty damn miserable.
Yeah.
And that was, kind of my goal was always to chart my own course, and I recognize that I came from a place where I had a background, I had support. I could do that probably more than a regular person,
right?
Or the average person, I should say. And, and then I could have fun. Like life should be fun. You get one life. Like if you don't love what 100%. You're doing, that's okay. then you should be working towards freedom or the next thing that you do love. And, everyone has, I've not loved every day of my life. I've not loved every opportunity that I've taken and thought was the right opportunity. But what I've done is tried to learn from it, and good and bad, right? We learn a lot of lessons from mistakes and slip ups. And when you have those lessons, you apply them going forward. But you still want to be the captain of your ship, and you want to say, hey, this is where I want to go. That's the life I envision that I'd like.
Exactly.
How do I get there? Work backwards, try to figure it out, and then realize that wasn't what you wanted to do. It might have been this. That's okay. But, if you don't even have a direction, you're not going to get there.
I know. You don't have to love every single part of your life all at one time. But if that is a critical component, like it's your income, for example, the job, maybe you don't love your job.
Big waterfall effect.
Yeah. But if it's bringing you the money so that you can be happy, so that you can move towards a good direction, then whatever, you gotta at least keep on the right path. I think, and all of this, what you talked about, like some people completely not, taking care of themselves. I think being physically in shape is so key to being successful and to continuing to be able to push yourself to new limits. I don't even know how. I mean, how many people do we know who are super out of shape and don't take care of themselves that are also successful? Like, it doesn't correlate.
It's less these days.
Yeah.
That was that old model. And, you'd see like, an old rich fat guy with a cigar or something. But like these days, my oldest brother's in his 60s and he's like 6-pack abs, like works out 3 times a week with a personal trainer. And he's like super dad. And, that's to me, that's the new model. And he's successful in the insurance industry. Like that to me is the model. Like I want to be there for my kids. I want to be able to play sports with them a little bit or whatever. I want to be able to have the freedom to go to their games. I want to be able to move around freely. Yeah. And of course, keeping in mind, there's people who have, other issues. What is
of course. We're not discounting real medical issues here. Don't at me.
But if you're able to, even just little changes, little tweaks in your diet or, wake up in the morning, have a big glass of water and you'll be kind of satiated. You don't need to have a donut on the way to work. Exactly. Or if you're drinking coffee, don't put 4 sugars. Yeah, you prefer the taste. Okay.
Yeah.
So what? So drink it without maybe the taste isn't
change it
quite
to 3, then 2, then 1.
It's like, what do you really want? You want mouth pleasure?
Right.
Or do you want to have energy throughout the day because you don't have a sugar crash and you're not putting on weight, because you're making these just bozo decisions.
Exactly. So many people don't realize how important diet is. And
mental clarity too.
Yeah.
That's huge if you eat a good, healthy diet, that's the fuel for your body. It took me a long time to realize this. Mm-hmm. We joke, a quick aside, but I take my office out to lunch pretty much every day, right? And which is kind of like a cool perk.
Very nice.
And also, and we still talk shop, but it's like no one has a to-do list. No one has tasks to perform. We're eating lunch. Yeah. So we can say like, hey, the intake department, like, what's up? Like, what are you seeing? Like, hey, I made a change in the way we present this. Like, what's the feedback, right? And I don't need to have a meeting with that person. Right. We're having lunch. Yeah. And, but one of the things, it's kind of silly in retrospect, but we'd go to Mexico. I love Mexican food, right? Yeah. It's tremendous. It's the same 5 ingredients prepared differently, but it's literally my favorite. And I can't help myself. And I get there and you get the chips and salsa come right out. And then I polish off a thing of chips. And then, I'd have these like afternoon kind of like, low energy. Yeah. And then Field of Greens, shout out. Yes. Opened across from my office. Okay. And there's a Green Garden Cafe next to our office. So we're like the health food district of Palm Beach County now. And I started getting a salad for lunch every day. And I realized I feel so much better. My mind is so much sharper that I'm pissed that I used to not have that clarity. Right. That I wasted years purposely poisoning myself. Not that I'm against Mexican food. Right. No. We love it. Dan, what the hell are you doing? Now that I know. And my poor office, they're like, well, we really like Mexican food. Like, do we have to get salad again? I'm like, we have to get salad again. You can get a Mexican salad bowl or something. Yeah, exactly. But we're going salads today. And then also too, a byproduct of that, I didn't change anything else, but of course, drop in weight. Yeah. Right. Not for the purpose of that, but you feel better and then you've got more energy. So I go play tennis in the evening and I did my workout in the morning now because I feel good. Yeah. I don't feel, so, that correlation, one of the downsides of being stubborn the way I am, like we discussed, I'm just going to go get it is sometimes I don't listen. And you would have told me that advice years ago. That advice is like pretty readily available, but like, I got to do it my way. I got to figure it out for myself. But once I learn the lesson, I'm good.
Yeah. Right. I know. I'm having this, like relationship similar to your Mexican relationship with alcohol. Cause it's like, I'm telling you, if you go a really long time, like having a baby, I was pregnant, so obviously didn't drink for like 9 or 10 months. And then you start drinking, you're like, wow, this really makes me feel terrible. Like, why do I keep doing this? I mean, I'm going to probably keep doing it as needed for social occasions, but it's not as regular, you know?
You pick your spots more wisely.
Yeah.
And I know you and Daria have talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
We'll go out and Daria, she's got a great energy, great personality, and I love her dearly, of course. But she goes out and everyone's like, why isn't she drinking? And she's like, I don't want to drink. She's like, it doesn't serve me. I don't feel good in the moment.
Exactly.
I feel terrible the next day.
Exactly.
And, it's been a good influence on me. Not that I ever had, was drinking way too much too often. And fortunately, I never.
But that's relative. Like, what is too much? What's not too much? Who knows?
Well said. But I mean, once, twice a month now, I'll go out and have some drinks.
Yeah.
Or I'll have a glass of wine with dinner here or there.
Right.
But it's not part of what
it's not every day. It's not every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and a brunch on Sunday.
Yeah, which at one point it was.
Of course, it was for everybody. Well,
but
not everyone.
But that's been a good, definitely a good lifestyle change, and one of those things that I kind of found out the hard way. And I think I see friends, colleagues, people who would really tremendously benefit from cutting alcohol out of their life.
Yeah.
And you can still drink to celebrate. You can still whatever.
Right.
Pick your spots wisely.
Exactly.
Don't be the guy who has to have 2 beers at lunch and then, drinks at dinner, and then you can't sleep unless you have drinks. Like, that's probably trending in a bad direction.
Correct. Not to mention probably making you fat and
health-wise.
Just affecting your health overall. Okay. I have my list of topics, our life hacks topics, social media for personal and business.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about that? Like, what are you using social media for?
Sure. Well, first of all, I enjoy it. So it's not like a big heft for me. And people joke, I'm posting pictures of food. Hey, man, I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a good meal.
Yeah.
And I get a little artsy with the angles and I'm enjoying it. So that's like the surface level. And then underneath that, I started doing this when I used to travel a ton, and it helps me, like, they have those, and maybe there's easier ways to do this, but for me, the lowest heft way for me to enjoy those memories, like, Facebook serves them up to me.
Yeah.
And I see, 3 years ago, I was in Dallas having a steak with this guy. Like, what a cool, fun memory. So, like, I do that personally. I just really enjoy it.
Yeah.
As far as business wise, it's a network, social network, right?
Yeah.
And it allows you to connect with people that you wouldn't maybe have the chance to, or in a way that you wouldn't have the chance to. For example, I spoke to a public adjuster who's someone who helps insureds resolve their insurance claims. We do a lot of work with public adjusters. Obviously, we'll come in if they can't get it resolved, or we'll team up or whatever as a law firm. And it's a guy out of Dallas, guy I would never have had a chance to meet, but for, a Facebook group, and someone was asking a question about a claim. He commented, and then I chimed in to try to help out, and we kind of connected. And, now we're going to do some training events together.
Love that.
And that happened like that. And but for social media, I could have never met this guy.
Exactly.
I probably wouldn't have ever met this guy.
Right.
So, for me, it's been very helpful professionally in terms of networking. And
for me, it's huge. Huge.
Yeah, right. I mean,
it's my whole brand.
Okay. And so tell me how that brand works for you, or how it serves you.
Well, in my case, I mean, Instagram was actually I had a Facebook. I think we all probably had Facebook, because like it came out when we were in undergrad, not aging us again.
Yeah. So for me, my business, like networking, is older people than us, right?
Yeah.
People who are, 20 years older than me, 30 years older, 10 years older than me. Facebook is their natural habitat. So I'm like in Facebook, but it is kind of a business persona. I'm reposting my Instagram, but Instagram is where where you live. That's where we live. So.
I know. We're not TikTokers.
No,
I know. I don't know. I have my thoughts. Yeah. Okay. But I started, obviously we had Facebook in college, and it was disaster for me. Like, I posted so many photos. I had to go in and I would like add everyone. I'd be like, oh yeah, they're my friend. Add. Like, it was awful. But I had a lot of friends, so I felt really cool about it.
Did you get hit with the 5K limit?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, so you can only have 5,000 friends on Facebook.
Okay, well, that wasn't that popular.
Okay, so I have to go.
Is that a thing?
It is. So business page can be whatever, but your personal, you only have 5,000.
Oh, wow.
So just because I used that, for my branding a little bit too and networking, I hit 5,000 like years ago.
Sure.
And so what happens is people will text me like, hey, I can't add you. And I'll have to go in, and it's kind of savage how we do it.
Delete some people.
Everything in this, I have to unfriend people.
Yeah.
But the problem is when I go to my friends list, it ranks by like the people that you interact with most.
Yes.
So I'd have to scroll down or like go to page like 20 and it takes forever. So what I have to do, and like, I'm sad to admit it, but I have to click on whose birthday it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really know that person. Like, you're out.
Oh my God.
So like, granted, I'm sure it means nothing to them, but it's like on their birthday, I'm like, like, you're out of here.
This is terrible. Oh my God. Yeah, no, Facebook. Okay. So Facebook I had obviously, but never anything related to my business or my brand. And then one day in residency, I was like, I'm going to make an Instagram and it's going to be about surgery. And at that point, I knew I was going to do weight loss surgery. So I was like, I'm going to be the slimming surgeon. Like, it literally just came to me randomly one day. I know I haven't done that yet. Nobody better do that. I'll kill you. But I know, right? But, it just came to me like in the shower or something, something totally random. And I was like, okay, I love that. And it's kind of got a ring to it. SS, like KK, because Kandace Kichler. And then it just kind of took off from there. I got, kind of busy on there early in Instagram because I was with all of these like medical influencers. I rode the wave, but then all these medical influencers started doing really cheesy stuff, like they would be like, oh, we have this thing we want to talk about. Like, we want to promote this. So everybody wear this color shirt and make sure your caption says this and make sure you hashtag all these things. And it just wasn't authentic, so I got off of that wagon and I've just kind of done my own thing, which I think works. Some days I think it works. Some days I think it doesn't, but it doesn't matter because I've used that to kind of branch out. And like you, I connect with people. Not only do I connect with other colleagues, but I connect with patients. Like, I literally have people messaging me regularly like, hey, I love what you're doing. I've lost this much weight. Now I want to have skin removal surgery. What do you think you can do? I've gotten a lot of clients from there. I've gotten a lot of opportunities, like to be on other people's podcasts, to go to speaking events. And, in what I do, it's like necessary. It's not an option.
Well, I don't know that it's necessary. I think for you, where you want to go, it's necessary.
Definitely.
And it's like, you're like, hey, this tool, and you've built this brand, and that's a real thing, and that's like its own entity kind of there too. And it overlaps with your life significantly, right? But it's not who you are 100% all the time.
Right.
But that's been able to empower you to connect with people. And, like I was talking about with the public adjuster in Texas, I'm sure you've connected with a lot of other like-minded professionals and had those opportunities to connect.
Right.
So that's interesting. So you have potential patients contact you.
All the time.
You manage it through your phone yourself, or you have like a system?
No. I do it myself. I know it seems a lot.
Girl, you got to get a system. You got to get something where you get it in, you screenshot it, you send it to like a virtual assistant,
literally.
And then like they put it through a workflow, and then it's got a 3-step email follow-up where they can book a link to schedule with you or whoever does your intakes. They pre-screen them, you read them, and you say, well, this is maybe not a fit for us. Send them the free weight loss book. Like whatever, you know what I mean?
You're reading my mind, because this week I was like, I need to get a virtual assistant. Like, there's so many things that I could be doing that I'm putting on my own shoulders, and I'm like, it's almost paralyzing.
And you can't, and again, going back to what's really important, let's say you've got, 100 tasks a day you can complete. Yeah. Well, is responding, a third email sequence to someone who reached out to you 2 weeks ago, is that one of those 100? No, it's not. Right. But if you can get a high leverage, if you can automate it, or if you could use a virtual assistant or just human resource, you have someone in the office who manages that. Right. That's working with higher leverage. So you can take the brand and, use what you've built and use it with even more leverage. Exactly. And I will happily talk with you about setting those up, because we're really good at that. I love that. So good. So good. Okay. Do you have any more life hacks or like just things that you think about that you want to share with anybody? Something that's really helped you? Yeah, I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is we have, I'm going to call it like a mantra, for lack of a better term. But, we always look at things, and I say we, it's the royal we, it's like my little team. And then we have all these different business things, but it's always like me and my team. It's never just me. And we say, do good, work hard, and have fun. And those things, like if you look at them next to each other, they'd all drop down. So like do good, like be ethical, be kind, do what's right, even if it's not to your financial benefit, all of that stuff. So make sure you're doing good, work hard. So if you're doing, and also do good, is it profitable for you? Is it worthwhile doing? That's good too. There's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
So look at things through that light, then work hard, right? So if it's good, you should do a lot of it.
Yeah.
And we talked about leverage just now and like, how can I bring more good in the world? If people are being systematically taken advantage of by insurance companies, I don't want to just help the people that I make money from. I want to produce resources that allow people to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
I want to produce resources that allow other advocates like me to sharpen their swords so that they can help advocate for these people, right? We're doing good, and now we're working hard. We're doing a lot of it.
Yeah.
And finally have fun. That's more of a byproduct of if you're doing good by yourself, you're doing good by your clients, you're doing good by your team members, you're doing good by your family,
right?
And you're working hard at it. You're doing as much as you can. It is fun, right? And if you're not having fun, you probably need to adjust something because something ain't right.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the work that we do is trying to pick the right targets and create smart processes. And then just from there, it's execution.
Gold, solid gold. Love it. Yay. Okay. Tell everybody where like they can find you, cause somebody listening, invariably is going to have a problem with their roof or have some damage, or maybe they want just some advice on, managing life the way that you have. Maybe it's a young law student or something. Where can people find you or reach you?
Yeah, so social media is very easy, and I'll give you the links for those. I don't know.
They'll be in the podcast notes.
I don't know how to spell them out now. That's an easy way to get a hold of me. That's probably the best. And from there, I have systems designed to filter that, and it gets to me.
Yeah.
The right stuff gets to me. So that's the best place to find me for sure. And, we do all sorts of stuff. Any legal problem that people have, we solve it. If we're not a full service law firm in that area, I have colleagues that I know and have worked with for years who are. So a lot of people are like, Dan, you're just my lawyer for everything and anything.
Love that.
So anything, any legal issue, any legal problem, if I can't handle it or my team can't handle it for you, we're going to get you the right person. You don't have to call around or go to Google and hope, and then interview
hope for the
20
best
people. And like, I've been there, I've done it. I work with people who are smart problem solvers like me, who have processes and do it the right way. So
I love it. Okay. So you guys are going to find Daniel Tighe. He does have a website. We'll link all of these things, your website, your Facebook, your Instagram. That way people can connect with you. I've really enjoyed this talk. I think people are going to come away with a lot of tips. Everyone's going to start waking up at 5 a.m. You're going to read the book one day, no pressure. But, I would love for everyone to leave a comment, ask questions, send us some DMs. But more importantly, leave a 5-star review and follow, subscribe, watch us on YouTube. We're going to have all the things, but I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I know we have these conversations in our book club and exchange and all that. So it's really nice to be able to record it and hopefully do good, and widespread.
Do good, work hard, have fun. We'll do it. Got it. All right, out. Thank you.